with Mheshimiwa. Thank you so much for watching tonight. We get another opportunity to do this. We will definitely do it again. And as I let us leave the studio, Kenyan-born Minnesota House of Representative Huldah Momanyi says the embracing digital technology helped her win her second attempt at leadership to the most powerful country in the continent. That's the United States of America. In an exclusive sit-down with KTN's Grace Nganga, she opens up on a wide-ranging conversation about what her 2-year in office will look like, and shares her plans for her district as well as her vision for fostering development plans between Kenya and the US. We leave you now with this sit down. Have a good night.
Right. First of all, congratulations on your win. I just can't imagine being a representative to the world, the most powerful nation in the world. How does that even feel?
Thank you so much, Grace. It has been a roller coaster. I think when after November 5th is election, a lot of people are asking me the same question, like, how do you feel? And I was like, ask me that tomorrow morning when I wake up, right? And it has been a couple of weeks now, and it feels amazing to actually be done with that campaign side of things, and now getting ready and going through orientation, and now actually going into the legislature and leading.
All right. This is not the first time when you've tried to go for an elective position. How was it different then to now that you've actually won?
Yeah, so the difference is really, it comes down to understanding how to run campaigns. Before, it was all about, just getting to the people and really mobilizing around community-rooted organizing. But we realized now that we look back on our lessons, one of the biggest lessons we learned was that data matters. Understanding who is who, where they stand on issues, and how they vote mattered. And so this time around, we really focused on the registered voters, and we really honed in on what their issues were, and we went in and really communicated with them in a manner that we were basically their candidate of choice. And so if you would ask me the difference between the first campaign and the second campaign, I would say is understanding the data and making sure that we utilize that data in a manner that made sense and allowed us to make decisions to win a race.
So does that basically say that technology is really reshaping the political campaigns in the country, and how did you use that on your end?
Absolutely. I mean, we're in a world of technology, especially with our young people growing up and our Gen Zs, right? Especially here in Kenya. Technology is a tool that really shaped how we organize, how we mobilize, because in the US, how it's set up, the Secretary of State, that department is assigned to, keep a record of all registered voters, right? And they're all of that information, and we are utilizing technology. We utilize technology to map out the different areas and the different wards within my district to make sure that in this district, when it came to the primaries, they voted this way. So let's tailor our message in a different way. And obviously, besides utilizing databases in that form, we also look at social media and technology and really how we maximized. We were the young, hip, campaign, and bringing in a new, refreshing side of campaigning, because the current person who was holding that seat finally was retiring after 22 years. This was an older white gentleman. And so our goal was to bring in a fresh, new perspective of campaigning and a new energy, exciting energy, and definitely including a diverse group of people, and not just a core one population part, but really be inclusive in nature, not only from an economic standpoint, but from also a racial perspective, because I represent the most diverse district in the whole entire state of Minnesota. And so I was very intentional about making sure that we were utilizing technology to understand the different population groups, where they were and what their needs were, and then tailored our resources and our messaging around that.
Clearly, what it now seems is like it's time for the young blood, right? So even when it comes to Kenya globally, that is a new trend. Yes. Do you think the young people are ready for those big elective positions?
I think they're ready. It's a matter of making sure that the environment is ready for them. You'll be surprised if you offer a young person an environment and an opportunity to exercise their right to really be creative in what they'll come up with. I take pride, again, in my team and how we mobilize the young generation to be excited about politics. And a lot of the people who actually put in the work, I'm talking about door knocking. In the US, you literally have to go to each door and knock and talk to them about, your ideas and your policies and what you want to bring to the table, and convince them to vote for you, and then possibly give you money, right, to run the campaign. And most of those people who are doing that hardcore work, including phone banking and doing mailers, were all young people, and so I am a firm believer that when a young person is given an opportunity to be creative and get engaged, they participate, and most of the time they literally produce results that most people are not expecting.
All right, let me take you back to campaigns, and we just want to compare how it's done in the US and here in Kenya, or how you went through your own campaign. In Kenya, there is that tokenism bit where you have to motivate your voters to go out vote. Is it the same in the US?
No, it's not. In the US, it's a country that really has strict laws and policies around campaigning. So every single penny, not a dollar, penny, is accounted for. You have to account for it. There's a commission that is called the Campaign Finance Board that literally audits every campaign, makes sure that they adhere to the rules and regulations of the state of Minnesota around campaigning. So that means we can't collect money from certain key individuals. For example, if you are not a permanent resident or citizen, that person cannot donate to your campaign. If you are obviously a foreign entity, that foreign entity can't contribute to your campaign. Here in Kenya, right, it doesn't matter where you just get your money where you get your money, right? There, we literally have to record every dollar that comes into the campaign, and then when it comes to, again, the voters, you're selling policy, right? You're selling your message, not what did you call it?
Tokenism.
Tokenism, right?
Yes. Motivation.
That motivation on tokenism is definitely prohibited in the U.S. If you just doing a simple Google, you will see a lot of campaigns that have gotten in trouble, even for a simple thing as using the campaign finance to buy a simple thing as, I don't know, an iPhone that they're using personally, right? And so and it forces candidates to really get to know their constituency and really sell their message in order to get votes.
All right, your win has brought so much hope to immigrants, not only in Kenya, but also internationally. They're seeing hope. What policies will you put in place to ensure that these people are protected?
So I definitely want to make sure that, first of all, I'm humbled by that, right? But secondly, I want to make sure that, whoever is celebrating globally understands that my priority are obviously for my constituency, the voters who actually voted me in. But at the same time, too, the state of Minnesota as a whole, every state in the U.S. has the luxury of really engaging foreign entities in terms of economic development and as well as cultural exchange. And so I'm here in Kenya, obviously having roots here, looking at, what do you call it here in Kenya, benchmarking?
Benchmarking, yes.
Benchmarking, yes. Making sure that, I understand what's on the ground, I understand who is who, understand the challenges, the economic challenges in terms of, for example, if we were to bring a manufacturing plant here in Kenya, what would that look like? What are the challenges? And then also looking at, this collaboration has to be mutually benefiting, not only for the state of Minnesota, but also here in Kenya as well. So I'm excited to, look at the opportunities that are ahead. I don't know what's possible, but this is just the beginning. The conversations that I'll be having, for example, with the, PS or PM in the PS for the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and Diaspora Affairs. I'm excited to kind of, tap into that ministry and see how do we engage the diaspora to really, invest here back home, as well as open channels where also back home can also invest in the U.S. where the majority of people are residing. And to be honest too, most of our people in the diaspora, especially in the U.S., they are not going to relocate back to Kenya. Let's be honest. We're having kids there. We are having, we are investing there. And when we come back to Kenya, we are here for a vacation.
Yes.
Right? and that lifestyle of a vacation is not the same lifestyle after that period of vacationing, right? And so we have to have a different mind shift in terms of what that looks like. Yes, we're passionate about our country, Kenya. Yes, we still want to see our country thrive, but we also have to acknowledge that we also have a second home, which is in the U.S. or whatever you find yourself in. And we have to marry those two and really see how do we create partnerships that are, beneficially, mutually beneficial.
All right, and let's go back to your campaigns and some of the issues that you are really focused on during the campaigns, or affordable housing, access health, affordable health care. Why those? Why are you so interested in those?
You're doing your homework, Grace. All right, I love that. So again, those issues are rooted in the conversations that I was having with my constituency, and even before that. There are issues that I have championed as a community leader. I worked a lot in the nonprofits, and I would go to the Capitol and champion housing. I would champion healthcare. I would champion unions and strong worker rights. I would champion, a strong economic force, especially as small businesses, which are predominantly African immigrant businesses. And so. When I started to run and then I started having conversations with my constituency, I realized, wait a second, most of the things that I've been championing are the same issues that my constituency has. And so it was a beautiful, just marriage of my values and what I wanted to do with what the people were saying when I was door knocking, making phone calls, going to community events, and that was the recurring themes that I was hearing, and that's where my team and I really centered our message around.
All right. So you feel like with you, you're going to, but when we try, let me take you back to try, because Kenya, we're also trying the affordable housing project. President William Ruto is really, active on it, and he really wants his people to have decent homes. Is it do you have similar incidences in Minnesota as well? That's why you're keen on ensuring that your people are going to have good living standards.
Yeah, that's a really good way of phrasing that question. So in the U.S., when we talk about affordable housing, access to affordable housing, we're looking at it from different perspective in terms of, the life stages of an individual, right? A young kid who just graduated from college, they're not looking to buy a home, right? Myself with a young family, we are at the stage in our lives where we're ready for, to buy our own home. So making sure that not only, my constituency, but the state of Minnesota in general, has options of affordable housing that, it doesn't matter where you are in your life, you can afford. So for example, renters, making sure that, we have strong renter rights, making sure that, those who are renting, are protected under the law and their rights are being protected. And then making sure that we have affordable housing in general, like homeowners, making sure that we have programs for new homeowners, especially immigrants, especially people who come from, marginalized communities, so that, they're able to, afford their first home. And then also, bringing down taxes so that these people can afford their livelihoods and not have to worry about their property taxes increasing, and they have to make a decision whether to pay their mortgage or take the kid to school. And so when we talk about housing, those are definitely some of the key areas that I really want to focus on.
All right, and perhaps if we can talk about, just aside from the campaigns and the elections, we have a new president-elect, that is Donald Trump. What does his win mean for Africa?
It's quite interesting. Obviously, this is not the first time Donald Trump has been in office.
Yes.
So this is his second term. And when we look at the democracy of the U.S., which has been 200 plus years old now, a very mature democracy, the will of the people, has prevailed,
yes.
As you saw. And really, at the end of the day, whether you're a Democrat or Republican, we have a president-elect Donald Trump. And we already know what he brings to the table, especially for the African immigrant community. And it's quite concerning. Speaking as a Democrat, let me just speak for my own party.
Yes.
But at the same time, too, we are confident in the laws of the country, in our constitution. And the state of Minnesota is very proactive in making sure that, our state laws are protected, no matter what happens at the federal level. And so many of us have had really honest conversations with our Attorney General for the state of Minnesota about what the Donald Trump presidency and his administration, what that's going to look like. We can sit here and continue to speculate, but at the end of the day, what we can control is how we will go about exercising our full right to the full extent of the law in making sure that we protect the residents and the citizens and the permanent residents of the U.S., especially in the state of Minnesota. And so with that, we have 2 years, until the midterm election. You understand that the elections in the U.S., we have the midterm and then we have the general election. And then the midterm is just halfway between the presidential election. And so we, right now, the Republican Party controls both the Congress, right? Both the House and the Senate. And so that poses some very interesting dynamics in terms of governance. But we have 2 years as Democrats to really, make sure that we have our ducks in a row, to be ready to go in 2 years and make sure that we do have a democracy to vote for and to champion in the next 4 years.
All right. Just hearing you speak, I can feel someone who would have brought change, immense change back home. So why not Kenya? Why did you vie for the US? Why didn't you want to come and vie for a position in Kenya?
That's a very interesting question, Grace. I'm passionate about Kenya, where I come from, and that's because of my parents and how we grew up, and my parents being very intentional about making sure that we don't forget our culture, especially our language, right? And so I've always been very active here in Kenya, from my nonprofit organization of providing reusable sanitary towels to girls in school, to feeding the feeding program that I've initiated, the scholarship program that I've initiated. Early on, when I was a little bit younger, I had that idea of coming home and just living here and relocating.
What happened?
And really, helping Kenya grow and really provide, a good living for its citizens. But life has a funny way of just changing your mind depending on your experiences, your lived experiences, right? And so as I grew older, went to school, started realizing, hey, this is America. Okay, all right, this is American dream. Okay. And then I had my kids, right? And I got married. That's when I realized my family's here. This is where I've invested all of my time, my energy. And that doesn't take away from me, participating and really contributing to Kenya. But from a political perspective, it was fitting that I run in the U.S. because that's where my family is. That's my community. Here, this is my family, and so that's why I, decided that America would be it. And again, there's a lot of things that happens here in Kenya that I'm going to be honest with you, that I don't understand. The Kenya that I left when I was 9 is not the same Kenya that is today. What has changed? A lot.
Like? Talk to us about it.
A lot. I mean, the modernization of Kenya has tremendously technology, for example, where you literally have, and again, this is amazing things that has happened here in Kenya, but the culture too, it's different,
It is?
It is. I mean, if I look at, so for example, I come here, it's laid back, right? It's so laid back to the point where I find myself just annoyed, like, we have a clock to keep, right? In the U.S., we have a schedule. And so, it's not a big deal, but the way even business is done here is definitely different from how, business is done in the U.S. Not saying it's bad, but it's just different. And I'm so used to that convenience that we have in the U.S. compared to Kenya.
All right. Yeah. We're still proud of you. You're still our very own. Very proud that we have our own who is shining. Are you getting so much pressure from Kenyans, or now that they feel like you're going to help them? If I could just take it back to the like of the former U.S. President President Barack Obama. People felt like, oh, this is our person. He's going to come and help us. Are you feeling that pressure that maybe people back home may feel like I need to do certain things for them? And then maybe if they don't, they'll be like, see now again.
Not as much as most people would think. Obviously, I'm getting tons and tons, and my PA can tell you, I'm getting tons and tons of messages. Okay, now Sasa, you need to do this, you need to do that. But I have to remind people that the people who elected me are the people in Senate District 38A, right? And I have a mandate, a priority mandate to them. So there's basic things that I get all the time about. Sasa, Kenya will be in Minnesota. We have arrived now. I can't do anything about that. Unfortunately, immigration is a federal, and that's I'm talking about immigration because that's the biggest thing that a lot of Kenyans are really wanting to know if I can do something about it. And to be honest, I can't, because that's a federal issue. I was elected at the state level, and so the expectations, honestly, they don't bother me much because I'm not afraid to tell them the reality and really the reality of the situation is that this seat is not as big as you might think, right? But my promise is this. I am looking at what's possible in terms of, bringing economic development and cultural exchange to Kenya within obviously the confines of what the state of Minnesota can do as a legislator. And even within my own city, I see my mayor going to Japan, going to Europe, signing bilateral agreements with those other entities. Why not Kenya? Right? Why not Kenya? Because I could see, a lot of our products, for example, our flowers, our coffee, our tea, where are they all going? They're going to Europe, right? And there's a big population in the U.S., not just in Minnesota, in the U.S. that love our coffee, that love our flowers, that love our tea, where most of the time we come here, we shop in big, quantities and we take it there. But can you imagine if we have that bilateral agreement where our coffee is going straight to the U.S.? That's creating more jobs here. That's creating more opportunities here. And then at the same time, again, as I mentioned earlier, just a simple example as getting a manufacturing, some of these big corporations that are really the headquartered in Minnesota, Fortune 500 companies, where they can come here and really tap into a well-educated, our young people are very well-educated.
Yes, they are.
The population of Kenya right now, the literacy level compared to other nations in the continent of Africa is through the roof. So how do we tap into that? I mean, obviously, when it comes to our economy and having jobs here in Kenya, that has been a challenge, a struggle, where stories upon stories I hear of, graduate students, even masters who can't even find a job, right? So how do we open those channels, especially with these big companies, not only from a tech perspective, because there's a big a tech boom right now, to a manufacturing, to textile, you name it, have it here. That's creating jobs, very livable, equitable jobs, and also building the brand not only for those companies here in Kenya, but also being the gateway to the African continent, because literally the African continent is the next biggest business boom of our generation, especially with the resources, the rich resources that this continent has.
All right, but in short, what should we watch out from you?
Well, you should watch out. Let me put it this way. I'm going to bring some new energy into the state of Minnesota. I'm going to bring some culture into the state of Minnesota. I'm going to bring some style, as you can see. Thanks, Kenyan. Shout out. And also, my goal is to make sure that I look at what's possible both here and then also in Minnesota, and really with it, because I have a very short amount of time. People don't know that my term is only 2 years.
2 years,
2 years is not a whole lot to really do a lot of things. So my priority right now is to really focus on the needs of my constituency, do that job very well, while at the same time trying to open these doors and trying to take away some of this red tape between, the bilateral partnerships between Kenya and Minnesota.
All right. Well, I think that's it for us. Do you know any words in Swahili? I want you to wrap this show in Swahili.
In Swahili?
Yes.
Wow. Grace. Sasa wewe you put me in a really awkward. Asanteni sana, my sister Grace, kwa
kunipa nafasi hii.
That
Endelea kutazama runinga ya
najaribu tu.
Listen,
nilikuambia Swahili for me was this thing where it was never taught in my household, right? But now you told me to tell you in closing and kissing, my friend will be here until tomorrow.
Do it.
Abana baminto twaikirega Kenya. Anata tekwere nimbia mono esisa yanega Grace ongagina ombekire bya sana yani igure bya sana mwa celebrate win ye not only for Abagusi but Kenya Yospi. Asante sana.
Tell them to watch KTN.
And please make sure you watch my sister Grace on KTN.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
That was amazing, right?
Thank you.
I had a blast.
You had me sweating. Nawatakia Christmas njema wa Kenya wetu.